Well, good morning. It is here in, no, it's afternoon in Melbourne and it's good morning in Western Australia. So we have people from two different sides of the country. I'm from Melbourne, that's why I'm all rugged up. And Riley is from Western Australia, which is the west coast of Australia. It's around 3,000 kilometre difference. And the temperature is very, very different. So Riley, but I worked at the same centre that Riley was an introduction leader at. So we have some common ground there, and in our pre-chat, we've spoken about the differences of who's still there, who's not, and what's changed. And it's quite a different, I can't say culture. The culture, I think, is the same. That's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, but some of the, like the introduction formats changed a bit, and now it's all online. So I thought it'd be great to catch up with you to find out, back in 1996 to 2000 to the year 2020, what changed or what hasn't changed?
Well, yeah, you were there before I was born.
Yeah. Oh God, stop it. So this is Riley Wilson from Perth, WA, and he was 19. So you were 19 when you did the Landmark Forum.
That's
And
right.
you were a personal trainer before that. So
Yeah,
now
that's right.
you went through the whole induction and kind of got spat out or got churned out or whatever, however you want to say it. I'm interested to find out where you're at now, and like I said, just find out what the differences are between now and then. So Riley, what do you want to say about yourself to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Well, firstly, it's great to be here. Been really looking forward to speaking with you, and an absolute pleasure just to have the opportunity to be able to share my experience. And yeah, I'm really up for this call to make a difference to someone, even if it's just one person. But definitely want to provide some information that I wish I personally had before I participated. And likewise, I'm really interested to give people who are around, a couple of decades ago, insight into how it's facilitated now and what the changes are, and really what kind of steps the company's made since then. And I'm sure as we get into it, we'll find that the culture is not too different between the two times. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome. So just give some background as well as to how you got into Landmark. I mean, 19, I'm assuming it was one of your parents or both of your parents that introduced you, I'm guessing.
Neither, actually. It was
Oh.
my drug dealer at the time. Anyone can make a difference. He was also my best friend. And yeah, we're the same age, albeit a few months difference. But we went two very different paths in life. He went down the drug dealing route, and he's now in prison, and he will be for another few years. And I obviously went into the introduction leader body, and I had agreements to not participate in anything like that. And doing what I thought was getting my head screwed on. So that's who invited me. And he came out the forum and he was like, bro, you need to do this. I was very quiet and shy at the time. And I'd really struggled with my family. We all had some mental health issues. And now looking back, so it's actually been this last couple of weeks that I now realize that at times the household could be abusive. And I went from, a household like that, really dysfunctional, unhealthy family, straight into Landmark. So, I did see abuse straight off the bat, in one of the sort of seminar after my forum. It was the seminar leader just at the back of the room screaming at a seminar leader apprentice, like screaming but quietly, like, what the fuck are you doing? And I was shocked. I remember being shocked even back then, but as far as my background had been concerned, that was relatively normal for people to be, up in people's face and yelling and swearing, and what I now realize is abusive. So this last couple of weeks, as I've started to really unpack this experience, listening to your podcasts, Brian Nord and Ann Peterson talk, has been shocking, is the word I'd use, in finding out what was going on throughout the company. And so I went in, and like a lot of people, I saw through one of the distinctions that this work could really make a difference, I got really excited. I saw that, I was like, we we're going through the whole racket distinction, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking like, wow, if I can get this and 80 other people can get this, and there's companies really doing this worldwide, yeah, 100% world peace is possible. And that was the first light that went off. Yeah, go for it.
So we kind of gloss over some of the terminology, but racket is one of the key distinctions that's introduced in the first 3 days and 1 evening. Do you want to say some more about what a racket is, please?
Sure. So a racket is what is it? A unwanted, persisting, I can't remember the word that they use. It's an ongoing complaint or unwanted thing somewhere in your life. So it could be like, my brother's so annoying. That would be a racket. It's persistent, it's unwanted, and it's a complaint. And really, what is going on underneath is that it's actually getting off the hook for something. A racket's actually a term used for almost like a criminal activity. So something going on behind the scenes. And really it would be like, I'm getting off the hook for any responsibility over that relationship. So as Lamarck would say, if something's not working in a relationship with someone or in an area of your life and you've consistently complaining about it, there's probably something you're getting yourself off the hook for, that if you were to just own it, could clear that up. And really the whole idea of that is you take whatever that complaint is or that unwanted negative experience out of your relationship or an area of life. And once that is complete and disappeared, then there's a space opens up where you can create something new, a whole new possibility for that relationship. So it could be a possibility of love, possibility of affinity, and really a remarkable piece of work. And it's actually one of the things that actually does work in the forum. The only thing that gets dysfunctional as you get into the leader bodies and the real enterprise, the core of the company, that can then become weaponized, and that's one of the things that doesn't work.
Okay, so a couple of things. One is, so a racket that best fit for me and I think the example with you here is really cool too, is that it's like a milk bar or a shop, and you've got the little lady at the front, but in the back they're making drugs. They're like cooking up meth. So
Yeah.
there's something on the front, it's like everything's fine, but in the back there's a lot going on that you don't want other people to know. So it's like a face, if you like, or something different. And then as far as the technology is concerned, a lot of it is great. Like the further I am away from the company, the more I actually put it into practice and listening to the internal dialogue, these persistent complaints. But it's the organization where I think the problem is. And on that note also, what I found was that I learned all of these distinctions, but then when I got myself into the leadership body, I wasn't unraveling the distinctions. It wasn't about a racket. It was about who are you being? Like the questions were different.
Yeah, it's a different approach once you're in.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
100%.
right.
Yeah,
Which is really confusing.
It is, and so confusing for those people who come in and they may just do the forum, or they may just do a seminar here and there, or they may have done the curriculum for living and not wanted to go further and pursue a leadership role. A lot of those people, there's a lot of great stuff that Landmark does. The only problem is that they're claiming it as their own when it's taken from everywhere but. And so there's definitely useful and valid work there, but it's not Landmark's, and they say that it is, when you can really go to a lot of hundreds of different organizations who are doing the exact same stuff, and it's plucked from psychology, psychiatry, spiritual practices and beliefs, and it's there is a lot of great stuff. So when those people come through and they experience that and they get value and benefit, like myself, we're walking around like this company's fantastic. What do you mean that how could anything be going on behind the scenes? What are you talking about? These people value integrity. They're talking about rackets. You're just on it. You seem really angry. where's your integrity out? And then we get into the whole shebang, really, of the culture.
So, so please give me more of a picture of who you were when you entered, because you said that you were a
Sure.
personal trainer. You know, what was your approach to life before you became a landmark junkie?
So that's a great term and 100% fitting. Um, so yeah, I hated the world and I hated people, to put it bluntly. I thought that the world was only going downhill, that society was only um, becoming more and more dysfunctional. And in that mindset, all that I looked for is anything that would fit that pattern. So it continued to get reinforced. And it ended up being that, it's just easier by myself, except for maybe one or two people that I really trusted. One of them was my best mate who first shared the forum with me. And yeah, I was really sad. I was really sad. I was incredibly low self-esteem. I didn't really think that I was going to do anything with my life. Uh, I was really concerned about my future, and I didn't think that I had any skills possible or any skills that would really make something possible in terms of a successful career. I'd got my personal training qualification, but I was training just a couple of friends. I was really too scared to put myself out there. I even got an opportunity to in working in a gym, and I just couldn't get over that. So when I walk into the forum, I sit down at the back. My mouth is shut. I do not share, not because I don't want to. I secretly really wanted to, but I just had that fear there that I was just stopping me. And over the course of the 3 days, so the first day I sat at the back, second day I sat in the middle, and then the last day I was like, I'm going to sit at the front, and even if it kills me, I'm going to put up my hand and share something, just something, and have that breakthrough. And I did. And I remember getting up and speaking to that microphone, experiencing my entire life that no one ever really listened, especially my parents. And yeah, when the forum leader first, what we call recreated, which is just essentially getting someone's communication and saying it back in a way that allows them to feel heard and be known. When she first just acknowledged what I said, which was some story about my mom and um, yeah, some one cool moment in our relationship. I was like, it actually feels like it could actually change. And the forum leader just said, like, yeah, I really get how special that was for you. And it was like the first time anyone had ever heard me. And the first thing that I thought was like, "What- did you hear that? Like I actually spoke and you heard me." So that was my first real experience. And then I thought, wow, this is all I ever really wanted. And all of the people there were listening to me and not making me wrong. They were just hearing me out and validating me. And I was like, wow, this community is awesome. I've always wanted people like this. So going from my old mindset of people are terrible, the world's screwed and is going to burn to death, that experience was incredibly refreshing. And I was like, you know what? I really think that I could be someone here. And as we got in and I got up and spoke, and people, were moved by what I'd shared. And yeah, I just started to form some really great friendships. I mean, there's a few people I did that forum with that I'm still best friends with today. Very, very close. And yeah, so I was like, you know what? This is where I'm going to spend the rest of my life doing. I remember thinking that when I was 19. And I bailed out of my integrity seminar straight after the forum, about session 4. My seminar leader calls me. Yeah,
Okay, so that's a bit too fast for people that may be unfamiliar with how the structure of the
sure,
organization.
sure.
So you had the 3 evenings, 3 days and one evening. Oh, you've got to always add the one evening.
Yeah,
And then
potentially.
how much was it then? How
It
much
was
did
$795, and I believe it's still the same today.
795?
Yeah,
Okay, so it was 350 or 350 or 375. Okay. And then you have the advanced course. Oh, so wait,
Mhm.
so with the forum, you have a 10-session seminar series, the forum in
Yeah,
action.
that's included, and they say it's optional. But
They say
really,
it's optional. All
yeah,
right.
but it's optional, but you got to go.
Highly recommended.
You're highly encouraged to go. You're not forced, but you're highly encouraged.
And how's that sold?
That is sold as after you leave the forum, you need a structure that's going to support your transformation. You're going to hit walls, and you're going to have breakdowns, and to support you in that, we've got a 10-session seminar series which you get facilitated a coach, weekly sessions for 10 weeks. And that's for you able to practice what you've learned, continue transforming, and if you ever hit a wall or a breakdown, you've got a landmark coach there ready to empower you to continue fulfilling on your possibilities that you created in your forum.
Exactly. So it's a 10-session seminar, but it can go over 12 or 13 weeks if there's public holidays or
Absolutely.
if there's other courses. So how long did it go for you? Can you remember?
I don't. Normally, I think the seminars I've done, there's normally about a 2-week break about halfway. Sometimes, depending on holiday seasons, maybe an extra 2-week break or even a 3-week break I've experienced as well. But as much as they can, I think they try to have a week to week with maybe a break in the middle.
And then you have a coach, right? You have some available. Sorry?
An unpaid coach, but apparently they're now paid.
They're now paid.
Apparently, I heard from a senior graduate the other day I caught up with, and he's saying that, because the Introduction Leaders program now is out and the leaders training program is in, I'm not sure exactly who's paid. It may be the seminar leaders and the self-expression leadership program leaders. I'm unsure, but apparently at least the seminar leaders are getting paid now.
Okay, so but the coaches are generally people who assist, who sign up to assist. And so that's the other thing. Yeah, at the end of the forum, there's a basket that you can put your name in if you want to assist. How's that sold? If you want to bring distinctions to life, or if you want to be around forums, or
the assisting program is sold as a free training and development program. My first taste of assisting was I went into the office and I took out bins. I cleaned up desks, wiped down tables. Training in integrity is how it's sold. Key distinctions of the forum. Yeah, you definitely get opportunities to be around forum leaders, around the center when it was still there in Perth. And a real opportunity to make a difference, and whilst getting trained, free training. Who wouldn't want that from Landmark?
And when you say integrity, so that's things like being on time, so showing up at your assisting agreement at the time that you agreed to be there, completing, being in communication. So there's some agreements. This is when the agreements start. It's kind of contracting with the company Landmark. This is how I agree to be as somebody who assists for you. And being on time is definitely one of the fundamentals. Can you remember any of the others?
Definitely supporting the space. So say if you're assisting on a forum, you may be keeping back in the day when it was in person and we had people's name tags, so you may be collecting people's name tags, you may be handing out flyers for participants. So say if there's a handout sheet or homework sheets, a lot of the assisting would be doing that. Setting up the chairs and tables, could be running an errand for the forum leader or anything like that. So say if they run out of pens or whatever halfway through the forum, someone may have to go get them. There's also people who what is it? The forum leader support person.
Course leader support. Course leader.
There you go, the course leader support. So that means that you go pick up the forum leader from the airport, you drive them to the hotel, you may drive them around wherever they need. So you're basically a chauffeur, but completely unpaid.
Yes, and you get them to the course on time, make sure that they eat well.
Cooking food, That's a
Yeah.
massive one. The introduction leader weekends, the whoever's leading has their breakfast cooked by a person who assists, or their lunch cooked. I remember being in the office and they're doing all of that. Yeah, for sure.
So
There's
this,
a anything that they need. Yeah.
this is all training in being in integrity.
In integrity, yeah. Performance is a big one. Um, if you have something personal to deal with, the forum leaders do take time to make sure that the people who assist do get something out of the weekend, which I do like. And yeah, they're essentially just training them in the distinctions
Mm-hmm.
and enrollment, which and after some research now I find a bit questionable, but yeah, definitely any kind of being on time, jobs to do, ensuring the space is kept so that people in the program can get as much value out as possible. Could be also IT as well. We had projectors and things like that. So setting up all that IT side of things,
And the
microphones.
sound, the microphones, yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Making sure the batteries in the microphones are charged and um,
yeah, yeah.
updated all the time. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay, very cool. So this is when you're in the forum, there's somebody at the back that has a basket that says, and the forum leader says, if you want to assist, if you want to be around this work, have more training in distinctions, put your name in the basket. So then you go to a meeting and you're kind of given, well, how it used to be, you're given the opportunities that you could assist around a forum, around any of the courses coming up. You could also go into the center and make calls. So
Oh,
be
yeah.
on the hello call team, and the
Hmm.
hello call welcomes every single participant before the course.
Yeah,
Make sure
that's right.
everybody's got their paperwork in, that they've paid. Yeah, so
Mm.
there's a full administration team as well. So
So
as
yeah,
somebody who is, yeah, so as somebody who assists, you can kind of gravitate toward the areas that you want more training in. It could be on
mm,
the production team
mhm,
or in the administration team.
mhm.
But usually you're always picking up rubbish and cleaning and doing all the things that you've mentioned before anyway.
Yeah, yeah, or even doing as you were saying, the forum fulfillment calls and all that. So it's you actually get some people who have never spoken to anyone on a call for the first time, and they've just got all these untrained people that they basically get to do unpaid work and make sure that they're doing all the hello calls, and it's just hours and hours uh, of free labor, taking care of those registrations and, as you were saying, the hello calls. And I've had people do the forum, call me and be like, those people aren't very good on the phone, so I don't know, how well that's received. There's a lot of people who do a great job, but some people just aren't familiar with that kind of thing and uncomfortable and can be a bit jolty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And was it all
Yeah.
documented on computers then?
Yeah, everything we had was run through a program called Lisa. Yeah.
Lisa?
Yeah, that's the landmark program for whatever yeah, I don't know the ins and outs of it. I used it once or twice when I was like 19. There's It's password secured, but there's all the documents from everyone who's done the forum, everyone in their database essentially.
So
Yeah.
it's an intranet, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, as far as I understand.
All right, cool. Okay, so you put your name in the basket to assist, and you did the
Oh, yeah.
forum, you did the forum in action as well. When did you do the advanced course? And did they still offer the advanced course at a discounted price if you register by 9 p.m. on the Sunday evening of the forum? You could get $200 off, and now you
So
had to pay by Tuesday evening.
yeah,
Does that
gotcha. So
still apply? And how much was the advanced course?
okay, cool. So firstly, I didn't do the forum in action. I went straight from the forum into the introduction leaders program and then did the advanced course while I was in there. They do still offer a discounted rate. I think it's I think the full price of the advanced course is something like 13.95. I think if you pay in full, it might be on just under $1,000. And then there's a midway price of like 10.50 or whatever if you put it in, yeah, I can't remember exactly how they structure it, but I believe that the advanced course was about 13.95. Yeah, to start off with, and then 10.95 or 10.50. And they've got different things. So, if you pay in full today, I think it's 900 and something dollars. If you put it on a payment plan today, it might be like 1,050 or 1,095 or something like that. And then you've got, I think they offer that for maybe a couple weeks after your forum if you're deciding it. And then if you go beyond that and then you decide you want to do it, then I think it's a bit more expensive. But I can't remember the pricing exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And then what was your other question?
Well, I'm just taken away first that you went from the forum into the introduction leaders program. That
Yes.
was it like a no-go zone? Because they've got the curriculum for living, which is the forum, the advanced course, and the self-expression and leadership program. And back in the day, we weren't supposed to take anybody from any of those courses until the curriculum for living was complete. It did happen, obviously. But how
So,
did you end up in the introduction leaders program? What did you think it was that you were getting into? How was it sold to you? And what was
so
it?
yeah, so I'll pick up where I left off. So just after my forum, I did the session 4 or 5 of the integrity seminar. Didn't want to go back. I had zero integrity. I thought this program, thought the whole idea of integrity was pretty dumb. I was like, being on time, doing what you said you would do, that's ridiculous. And so they went into the integrity seminar, and it was just boring as bat. And so I left, and the seminar leader called me and he goes, "Hey, why'd you leave?" And I was like, "Oh, I just think all these people just complain a lot. Don't really want to be around it. And honestly, I really just want to understand how this work works. That's all I want." And so he's like, "Oh, well, we've got this thing called the Introduction Leaders Program, and you get access to the methodology if you do that program." I believe my response was like, "Can you just like email me a sheet or something on how it works?" And then he did the whole spiel. I was like, "No, well, if we could just give you the information, that would be great, but you really need to experience it to get the work. So the only way to understand or really get it is to do the program itself." And I was like, okay, whatever. And all I needed to do was like $100 or $125, and I could pay each weekend as I went along. And at that point, they hadn't had anyone candidate as an introduction leader for about 2 years. And I believe they were starving for people. So when I said I wanted to understand and I really love the work, and he was talking about, what kind of a difference you want to make for the world. And I was like, world peace would be fantastic. I love this work. And so he's like, "Well, let's get you signed up." So I did. And that's how I ended up in the Introduction Leaders program. And the condition was that I had to do, I think it was like 15 or 17 hours of assisting before, because I hadn't done the advanced course. But I only had a week and a half until the Introduction Leaders program started. So I cleared my schedule and went and just assisted or cleaned up the office for however many hours it was, getting to know all the staff and all that.
Okay, cool. So just going to backtrack for people who are unfamiliar with the setting. So
Yeah.
you said the integrity seminar. So in place of the forum in action, sometimes you can do another seminar that's being run at the same time. Did you do the integrity seminar straight after the forum?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have to
Yeah.
pay for that, or was it included in the tuition?
It was included. It's 77 yeah, 7.95 for the forum, and included is the 10 session seminar.
A seminar, so not necessarily only the forum in action. Okay.
No, it's whatever's being run for that region. So at the time, I was the integrity seminar. And then,
Right.
yeah, we really only had a few seminars going over and over. And then it was when we went on to Zoom that we kind of got access to a lot of the other seminars. Otherwise, you'd need to travel over East or something like that.
Okay, so with the forum in action, that's only for people that have just come out of the forum, whereas the seminars are available to all of the so-called graduates. Anybody can participate in that. So it's kind of, in a way, it's more of an advanced seminar. And you found it boring.
Yeah, I found it boring. Are you talking about the landmark forum in action as in the seminar itself?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
Forum and
it's just
action seminar.
yeah, I think it's just whatever seminar that they're running at the time for that region that they chuck people in on.
Okay, got it. Okay, interesting. And then you said so also the structure of the Introduction Leaders program.
Mm.
So that still goes for 6 months, approximately, 4
Yeah,
weekends.
about 6, 7 months.
Yeah,
Yeah,
depending
four
again on public
weeks.
holidays and things.
That's
So
right.
you
Yeah.
have a weekend and then 4 Fridays, another weekend
Uh,
and
yeah,
4 Fridays. Yeah, and there's a total 4 weekends. They kind of sandwich all the Friday evenings in between. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's right.
So what did you think you were registering into? What was the dream that you were following with that?
I honestly just wanted to understand how the work worked. I have my brain just loves learning. I absolutely love learning and love getting to the bottom of things, figuring stuff out, solving puzzles. And so when I experienced that work, I was like, how does this work? And I'd already been getting really interested in psychology and Buddhism and interested in enlightenment. So when I first went to the Tuesday evening, that's what got me interested. I don't remember exactly specifically what it was about the Introduction Leaders program, apart from I just wanted to get in there, understand how it worked, and just use it as a learning opportunity. And then when I went in there, obviously it's you just get trained to sell, essentially.
Okay, so let's have a look at that a little bit more.
Yeah, actually, I will say one other thing. So the one of the main selling points of the Introduction Leaders program is that you get trained in the distinctions of all of the distinctions that the forum leaders have. And I was like, that's wicked. I think that's what got me excited. I was like, cool, I'm gonna understand exactly what that lady was doing there. And I really wanted to, yeah, learn how to communicate effectively. So yeah.
Who was your forum leader?
Catherine Zaruski. I can't remember how to say her name.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So what was it about the communication style? Because that's what really got me as well. I'd never been in an environment where people were communicating so clearly. And it was
Mm,
like you could drop a pin in the room and it could be heard because everybody was listening. It was so intense.
mm,
Some of the stories that people were telling obviously were really heartbreaking. I
mm,
think the amount of sexual abuse is just incredible. Number of people have
mm,
been abused by family members, namely.
mm.
Um, and I remember there was a point, did they still do the part where they ask if you were pressured to go into the forum? Did they ask that?
Um, I think I don't know about right now, but I've never really taken note of that, but I do remember it happening.
But
And also,
that was one of the big
yeah,
eye openers for me. David Miles was the leader, and he said, "Does anybody think that they were pressured to be in the room?" And about 2/3 of the people put their hand up, me included.
mm,
Um, and then he started to unravel what do you mean by pressure? Did
mm,
they physically force you to sign something? Did they talk a lot? What do you mean by pressure? And we
mm,
slowly unraveled what he meant by pressure. And then
mm,
he'd ask again, and less people put their hands up. But there was this one woman at the end, she was just adamant, she was pressured. She was like, my family said that they'd oh, they'd stop talking to me. They they were just really, they wouldn't stop nagging me to do it. It was like, I
mm,
can remember her standing there and she had her arms crossed and she had her kind of
mm,
nose up in the air and she was just like, yeah, I was pressured. And I remember looking at this woman and it was like somebody had carried a mirror through the room and I saw myself. I was like, that's me talking to my mum. That's exactly what I'm like. What are you doing interfering and asking all these questions? So I
mm,
got a really good insight into myself. And that was the moment where I was like, I want to be able to talk like him, or I
mm,
want to be able to communicate in such a way that something happens in other people. And
mm,
just, I've got the sun coming through my window, so it's a bit bright. So that was what really got me was being in a room where people were free to say whatever it is they wanted and have
Mm,
somebody actually listen. Did
mm.
you ever want to be a forum leader?
Oh yeah, that's what I was doing. That was what my life was for. I wanted to lead all the programs, everything. I wanted to do everything. Yeah.
Okay, and then so you're in the introduction leaders program, and did you know you were being shaped to be a forum leader there?
I knew that what I wanted to do was lead the programs. So being trained and developed to be that, I had no problem with. And the other thing as well is, I always thought, I really struggled with relationships. I thought, okay, I've just got to be able to enroll and register my partner, like no matter what. My mum, I since found out that my mum had did the forum decades and decades ago, and so she knew about it. My dad was a hard no, still is. I don't blame him. But yeah, so that aspect of it I was totally fine with and inspired by. And also every time that the coach related something to, you know, they bridge between the training and then how it can impact your actual real life, oh, the rest of your life. And I was like, yeah, absolutely, this kind of stuff would make a difference. And I knew I was being trained to get better at enrolling people, but I didn't really understand the context. And I think that naivety and that the just the immaturity of me being that age was like, yeah, no, this is wicked, this is fun, and didn't really understand exactly what I was a part of. I think that's the main thing. I knew what I was doing, but didn't understand the context in which it was actually being done.
And did you start notice changes in your so-called real life, like
Yeah,
registering and enrolling people? Were more people saying yes to invitations that you're extending, for example? Were,
yeah,
were
for
you
sure.
looking, what were you doing work-wise then?
I was piano teaching. I was a support worker for a company. Um, I was teaching parkour at a gym. Um, and yeah, I was doing some personal training as well. So I had like a few things that I was going on top of, yeah, the whole introduction leader program.
And were you finding you were getting better results there?
Yeah, it was like this. So it was like I was struggling with every single area of my life. And over the course of the introduction leaders program, life, I just experienced life becoming malleable. I could actually do something about things, and my communication went through the roof. I got really, really good at speaking to people. I was a go-to guy in my friend group if they ever wanted someone to do the forum. So people's partners, um, brothers and sisters and mums, like I was the guy, and a couple of my friends were graduates, and that grew to like, maybe 5 to 10 people in my friend group were all graduates. And so yeah, that's who I started becoming, and I just experienced making such a massive difference. Yeah, for sure.
And what was it like having friends that had done the forum? How did that alter your life, the quality of your life, like the conversations that you had before compared to after? Were there any people that was unsure about it and was starting to question it?
100% both. The great thing about having the graduates around was it really reinforced what I was doing, um, and was, yeah, reassurance that I was doing something good. But then there's definitely people who tried to warn me, who were saying it was a cold and that it's something that I shouldn't get involved with. And I was really like, you don't understand the context of what I'm doing it inside of. But yeah, then there was people halfway in between who didn't agree with what I was doing, but just let it go. And everyone in between that, I'd experience for sure.
Okay, awesome. So now let's talk about some of the agreements and what the introduction leaders program was actually about. First of all, how many people were in there with you?
The first one, I think about 20, under 25, about 25.
How many
That
finished?
was probably about 11, maybe eight. I think over half the program left.
Okay. And you also said that they hadn't had anybody graduate into an introduction leader for 2 years.
Yeah, no one had
No one
candidated.
candidated.
I was the first one in 2 years. And by that point, the context of the center was that it couldn't be done. So I really had the no agreement of the whole center. I led 17 introductions before I candidated. Took me half the program to get it done. But yeah, so I was the first one in 2 years, and yeah, that was
Okay,
cool though.
let's unpack that. First of all, what it means to be candidated. What does that even mean? What were the measures?
So
What were some of your agreements? And how many other people were candidated during that program?
So it was only me. I was the only one that candidated. The what criteria had to be met. It's a bit different now. So what it is now is that needs to be 20 guests. I believe it was 15 when I did it. So now it's 20 guests. At least 15 need to be people that you directly have invited yourself. So you've opened your mouth and they've accepted the invitation. And now they have what's called a community guest. So which means that if I invite you to the introduction and then you bring your friend or your family member, that constitutes as a community guest. So you're allowed to have up to about 5 included in that. So, and then you need to have registered 15 people, 5 of which you need to speak with, and then they register out of that conversation that you have. You need to,
Okay, so let's just have a look at when registering people. That means
yeah,
they get their credit card out with you and sign,
yeah,
or they call in and register as
yeah,
a result of you having spoken with them.
or now it's all done online. So you walk them through the website and how to register and how to fill out the form there.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. So that's a registration. And you needed how many? 15. No,
15. Yeah,
15.
15. Yeah, 5 of which are direct in what they call direct, which means that if I speak to you and you register, well that counts as a direct registration. I think it's if you haven't attended an event or anything like that, or at
Okay.
least for a while anyway.
So this is over the course of 6 months, from the day you sign to be an introduction leader to the day you leave. That's the amount of time you have to register 15 people.
So the time you have is from the start of the program until the first day of the program to the last day of the program.
Okay. And you
Yeah.
have to then lead X amount of introductions. So tell me about leading an introduction and also the format. So what were some of the
Yeah.
things you spoke about in the format? Because I'm curious to see if anything's changed there.
Yeah, so the format has changed a little bit. So now that they're on Zoom, they no longer have a break. That's pretty much the biggest change. And then they've changed the last couple of shares around as well. So I can't remember exactly. So you have a being in the landmark forum share, and then you go straight into the day 1, day 2 share, and then you have your registration share. That's what they call it. Yeah.
Okay, so do you still have to verbatim go through the format? I always thought it was 38 pages of
Yeah, so it's shortened
the
now to
fleas. Did you still use the flea example? The fleas hitting the top
no.
of the lid?
They did in my first program. I
Yeah.
remember hearing that in 2019. But no, I didn't hear it. So I went back. So everyone should know I've done the instruction leaders program twice, once in person and then again online. And you may be able to hear my son crying. So if you can, I apologize.
Okay.
He's just expressing himself. But yeah, so it's a bit different now online. They don't talk about the fleas. No.
Okay, so can you compare the differences between the first and the second introduction leaders program that you did? So the second one was still called introduction leaders program,
Yeah,
and
still
then
the
they've
into
changed
the
that again now.
yeah, so it's the I did the introduction leaders program, and then they brought out another one, which was the new introduction leaders program, and in which case they're like, it's new, it's different. It's nothing like the old one. It's got some of the same stuff. We've taken out some of the distinctions. We've brought in new ones. So the content was a bit different. But the hours were significantly shorter. So I remember, I think it was 8 o'clock in the morning until 7 or 8 at night when I first did it in person for the weekend, so Saturday, and then it would have been like 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. on the second day. But now it's shortened, so it was like 10 to 6 or 10 to 4 or something like that. It was significantly shorter weekends. Yeah.
And what did you do on each weekend? So we had distinct weekends. We had a makeover weekend. I don't think they do that anymore, where they actually got us up to the front and we delivered part of the format, and we got picked apart of what we were wearing, how we were standing, how we addressed the room, our hair. Like, I got a haircut. People got complete makeovers. They had graduates come in with a wardrobe, so to change things up. There was like a way that the women particularly left the room. They all had a scarf tied around the side, kind of air hostesses style, with a jacket and high shoes. Yeah, there's like a particular look. So you didn't have that, but what did you do on each weekend?
So we did have, we're not
And the
like
poems,
that.
do you still do the poems?
Still do the poems. So in terms of dress and appearance and leading, they did do some of that in the first weekend. I don't think that it wasn't that intense, but it was definitely like, you're still leading parts of the format, getting coached on how you speak and the way you deliver it, making eye contact. And then in the new program, well, program last year, it's now changed again. I'm not sure what it's like now, but last year, the Introduction Leaders program online, one of the biggest differences was that it wasn't done in different centers. It was actually Australia wide. So they had everyone from all over. It was me, I think it was me and one other boy from Perth in that program, a man in Japan, and then a woman over in Malaysia. And so there was only a couple of us in WA for the whole thing.
How many in total?
It would have been probably under 20, about 20.
For all of Australia, including Japan. So the
Yeah,
region, it
it's
sounds
just
like
one person from Japan, so it's just the time zones. Yeah, I can't remember exactly how many, maybe 20 to 30. It wasn't many. And a lot of the people drop out on between the first and second weekend.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
pretty standard.
that's always been like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh my God, that's really small. And had there been, when was the last time, what was the ratio of candidates between the
So,
first and second one? Had they picked up their game?
so after I candidated, yeah, people started candidating again, which was cool. We had some really great introduction leaders come through, phenomenal people who just really, especially a Kiwi woman. She was amazing. Because she still registered a lot of people, but the way she did it and the way she was with people actually was the way that it was supposed to be done, and left people with a great experience. People, yeah, some people went in to other programs and all that, but at least for the forum, she did a really great job. And yeah, we had multiple other introduction leaders, had 3 seminar leader apprentices, or 3 people become seminar leader apprentices over the next year or two after I candidated, but they all since quit. And I don't know what it's like now. A lot of people from over east were getting candidated. Uh, yeah, over east was doing a good job last year at least.
That mostly Melbourne, Sydney.
Melbourne, Sydney, yeah.
Yeah. Melbourne was always a really strong centre. They were churning out seminar leaders, centre managers. It was nobody's business.
Yeah,
Okay,
Perth is dead.
how interesting. So what was it like when they closed the centre? You were around at that time, right?
Yeah,
What was
so
it? An announcement, or was there a farewell? What happened?
so there was a bit of a crossover period where they started going online, but was still so um the centers pretty much had no people who were assisting except for some introduction leaders. And so maybe it would have been 3 or 4 people, if any, if that, in a center at one time. And the way we started off was just masks, gloves before we started making calls, and after it was a lot of just speaking to people, calling them people who had registered for programs, and just getting them being in communication with them to be like, hey, we're not doing this program right now, don't know if we will. And that lasted for, I don't remember, if maybe a few months or so. It's I'm not clear on that memory at all. But then yeah, we started going into, they announced that we're going to be doing our programs online. So some of the forum leaders started working on the introduction online, and they found that the online introductions were more effective than the in-person ones. So then they started hosting calls for us to be trained to lead on Zoom. And yeah, I was one of the first few people to get trained and then lead on Zoom out of Perth. And from there, they ended up just saying, we're not going to go back to doing any in-person programs. It's all going to be online. And then it wasn't long after that that the center shut, and that was during COVID. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm interested to learn more about the difference between the online and the in-person introductions. You said that there's no break. So what used to happen was that but we had a break to go through a distinction. Oh God, I can't remember. And then we came back, and that was in the registration period. So that totally disappeared. And how long are the introductions now?
So I think the in-person introductions normally went, depending on who was leading, between 3 and 3.5 hours, unless they got it done sooner.
Yep.
The online ones were averaging, I think, about 2.5 hours, so that was shorter. They didn't have the break, and then they reorganized the way they did the shares at the end. And I can't remember exactly what they did that was different though.
And you spoke about the shares before on day 1 and day 2 and day 3 shares. We didn't have that. What was that all about?
So
What's a day 1 share?
so the day one share is talking about, you share something that you got out of day one of the forum. So we're talking about, normally people would share something about a racket or the already always listening, which is 2 tools that you get in the forum or the first day of the forum. And so you share something that you got from one day, and then you share something you got from the second day. So people can see that, you're getting value out of every day that you're there. And yeah, I think it starts off with, so that you get all the information about the forum, um, the times and the tuitions. Then there's a being in the Landmark forum share. So you're talking about, just your experience of being there. And then what they also do now is they have the host of the introduction share. That's one other thing. So it's like a host graduate share. So they may share something that they got out of the Landmark forum. And then yeah, the introduction letter shares the day 1, day 2, and then they go over the whole day 3 transformation, the whole, you know what you know what you don't know, and you don't know what you don't know, that distinction. And then yeah, towards the end there's the opportunity to register, in which you do the registration share as well. And that's the one where, if everything throughout the introduction has gone absolutely terrible and you've made a complete mess of it, that last share will carry the day, as they say.
Can you remember your share, your registration share?
I had I had multiple. One of the ones that I shared about was my brother, and how when I walked into his bedroom one day after school, and he was there playing his PlayStation with his headphones on, and normally he'd greet me, but he didn't. And in that moment, I decided that didn't want anything to do with me, and so I decided, instead of wanting to be exactly like him, I want to be nothing like him. And yeah, shared about how we then got that cleared up, and started hanging out with him a bit more, essentially. But at the time was, yeah, something I, yeah, was really great.
Okay.
Mm,
And so, well, my mind's going a bit crazy. This is so different.
mm.
Um, so you didn't have the part where they went through the distinctions, racket, winning formula. So we used to have a whiteboard in the room, and we'd have them talk about, the guests talk about a racket or a winning form. A winning formula is something like a racket where you've got the drug shop happening at the back, and a winning
It's a
formula,
it's a way of being you created to win.
yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So we would have the guests go through a racket mostly. Yeah, it was a racket. How, and the costs and the payoffs.
Yeah,
And
that's
what
right.
that
Yeah,
way of
yeah,
being cost you, and what the payoff
yeah,
was. I get to be right.
yeah. That's the bit I
Costing
can
my
remember. Yeah,
energy. So you
yeah.
still did that?
No, we didn't do that in the introduction. No.
Oh,
So
okay.
what we did in the introduction was a so you had all the guests, so you use the whiteboard and you write up areas of life. They choose an area of life that's really important to them, something that, you know, isn't working for them or isn't working as well as they'd like it to. And then you go through the whole who are you being, the impact, and then create a new possibility. And the idea is that if you do a good job at them inventing a new possibility for themselves, that's really what they see possible. And then the rest of the introduction is, okay, well, the only way you can get that is if you do the forum. So like, which life do you want? Do you want your, not saying it's crappy, but we're gonna subtly say it's a bit crap, and this whole new better life. Like, which one do you want? That kind of a thing.
Okay, cool. How
Mm,
interesting. Okay.
mm,
Well, I'm aware that we're almost an hour, if not just
mm.
over. And I've still got a lot of questions. So I think
Yeah.
a part two could come in quite useful.
Yeah, I was going to
There's
say that I feel like I haven't even gotten started yet. Yeah.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
but I think it's really important for people to understand what it's like, for the people that haven't been into the Introduction Leaders program, what the process was like. And
Mm,
then for people who were introduction leaders, if they happen to be listening to this, to
mm,
hear the difference between now and when we were in it, it's like
mm.
chalk and cheese.
It's
Um,
it's well, it's phenomenal. They change it. Everything changes year to year. So between 12 months ago, when we had the Introduction Leaders program, now it's a leaders training program. And even between the couple of years in which I did the Introduction Leaders program, that was so vastly different.
hmm.
It's just always changing, but still the same.
Yeah, that's right. It's
As as they say,
the front of the
as they
shop
say,
changes.
as they say, the more things change, the more they stay the same. The world needs a transformation, but
Yeah. But it is like the shop. It's like they put new signs up, they've changed the font,
hmm.
or they've, put new lighting in or whatever, but they're still dealing drugs out the back.
It's a lot like those ads for fast food, and they make it look fantastic, but what you get is never what's advertised. It's
Mhm.
just you still get something, but it looks pretty crap.
Yeah,
Makes you, and some makes some people really sick. So
yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Mm.
literally, it really
Yeah,
does.
literally, yeah, absolutely. I got when I first did the introduction leaders program, I think it was after, just after I candidated. So literally went candidated in the classroom. As soon as we finished the classroom, I signed all my agreements and went straight into the next classroom to coach on the next introduction leaders program, and coached a few times, as well as doing a bunch of other roles and seminars and stuff. And I ended up just being so busy, and they kept asking me to, one of the seminar leaders kept asking me to take things on, and I was like, yes, man. I'm like, yes, 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 yes. Ended up being so just run down that I ended up getting shingles. I was nearly hospitalized, but I was like almost like paralyzed from like about here down. I was in my bed for weeks. I was on that many different medications and painkillers, and still leading on all those painkillers um, as well, which they were totally cool with. And yeah, I was really really sick for a long time. It took me about 2 years to fully recover from that, and that's when I was like, okay, this is too much. I need to back off. And I was 20,
Hmm.
so that's a young, fit 20-year-old.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who have had way worse experiences than that.
Yeah, who are a lot older as well and find it
Yeah,
really difficult to leave because that's
yeah.
where their communities are and their friends, and they've developed all these new relationships. And
Hmm.
oh, so speaking of which, I mean, we started the interview with the conversation with that you were struggling to be in a relationship, and then at point partway through, you mentioned your son in the background.
Yeah, I've got
That
a
something obviously worked there.
something happened. Yeah, it was really one of the introduction leaders. I'd been working on it forever, and it was something that he went through. Just asked me to write down my ideal partner, and wrote down all these things. And this was not anything from Landmark that we did. It was just something that he suggested. So I did wrote down all the things I wanted in my ideal partner. And then I went out with a girl I'd gone out with about 4 years before that. And after a couple of dates, it just clicked. I was like, oh my God, my ideal partner is this person that I've been best friends with for like 10 years. And now we have a beautiful 10-month-old son together. So yeah, that was really great. Yeah. I had some really great stuff out of the forum. It's just, I've got a lot of concerns now about the methodology that they use now that I understand actually what's going on in the brain. Mm.
Okay, and that's what we can definitely talk about next time.
There's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole lot more. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
making this little cookie.
Mm.
And the drug dealer in prison, was there any contact with him? Did he know the effect that he had on your life? Are you still in contact with him? So yeah, could
Mm.
that be questions that people are asking?
So yeah, I'm still in contact with him. He's up in Acacia prison at the moment. Um, and yeah, he was definitely aware of the who I'd become. He was so happy, and yeah, I'm so thankful that he did get me to do that, because as I got some really great stuff, and um, yeah, I'm glad I didn't follow his path. But yeah, we're still in contact. We're still very close. Um, and yeah, he ended up getting another couple. Was it the advanced course he ended up doing after I candidated? So he's in there with you know a couple of distinctions that may or may not used. I don't know. They
Is he registering other prisoners?
no, 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 I don't think so.
Oh my God, it's funny. It's hilarious. Great
Mm.
way to start. Okay. Beautiful. Well, Riley, thank you very much. And we'll schedule the next one so we can
Yeah,
continue to take off from there. Thank you very much.
my
I
absolute
know,
pleasure. My
yeah,
absolute
we
pleasure.
spoke in April,
Mm.
and you seemed really keen. And then, as with what happens with so many people that I've spoken with, I get a text or an email. Oh, sorry, I thought about it and I don't really want to go ahead. So it was a pleasure to get your message again. It's like, I'm ready. Dale, I'm
Yeah,
ready.
well,
And then I didn't
more.
answer you. I thought, yeah, we'll see, we'll see. And then you text
Yeah,
back, I really am ready. I'm like, okay.
yeah, that's what I thought. And look, at that time, it was really I just didn't know what I wanted to say. As I said, it's only within this last couple of weeks that I've really started unraveling it. And I've been really ignorant to what's been going on in the organization. I didn't want to hear anything about it. I'd heard stuff and I was just like, no, I don't want to hear about it. It's rubbish. It's nonsense. But as a lot of people now, I've actually uh, stopped my ignorance and had a good look at people coming forth and talking. And for a company that I had so much admiration for and so much love and was ready to dedicate my entire life to, the practices and the stuff that they've covered up and what's been going on I'm just not okay with those people, like those people that I put so much trust and admiration into. I can't agree with what's going on right now. And yeah, thank you for giving me that time to really mull it over, and I'm ready to speak.
My
And
pleasure.
yeah,
It's
it's
good. And
been
this is, yeah, and then I think I'm really wanting to compare the differences between what was to what is now for other people to think, there's some horror stories out there. There really are some
oh,
horror stories.
the
Yeah.
newest one that I've heard is that the CEO almost every day is getting a call about someone's suicide.
Mhm.
And so with things like that going on in the organization, and there's stuff that's been covered up, abuse, and it's yeah, and now I'm on like, okay, well, this is the thing that right now I can see is going to make the biggest difference,
Right.
is having the courage to talk and yeah, just get this stuff out in the open. I want to make it very clear that this is entirely my experience. This is my own story,
Mhm.
saying this is cold hard facts and everything like that. So it's just my experience.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful way
Yeah.
to end. Thank you very
Mm.
much. Okay, well, we'll sign off and continue. Thank you.
I look forward to it. Thanks you.